Hello, welcome ladies and gentlemen to the Game Changer Podcast. I am indeed your host, NateFNGreat, and I'm wearing my very comfortable, bright yellow Seth Gambino shirt. Why is that? Because, well, you guessed it by now. My guest here at this time is indeed the one and only Mr. Seth Gambino. Seth, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you, bud?
I am doing absolutely fantastic, and we are just it's almost about 2 or 3 hours away from the biggest show of the year for ACW, the 6th anniversary show.
A fun one. Yes.
Oh my gosh, the card already has got me just super excited. And as I said before, the main thing I would like to see is my friend Griff. He is a huge Tommy Dreamer mark, and just the reaction on his face, just seeing him would be absolutely the thing that makes this night complete. And he even said, I don't even know what to say to him. I said, well, you can either say thank you to him or tell me that you're a big fan of his. And he's like, yeah, maybe. He's still
both are good options. It's fun to think that Tommy has been on the last 5 of these. He's only been announced for a few of them, and the other times he was a surprise guest, which always got a really good reaction when people didn't know he was here, and then he would just pop out. But looking forward to tonight. There's probably one of the best cards we've had in a while. I think this is maybe the best year ACW's had in some time. Even with a couple big departures, I think the locker room really pulled together and really put forth a great product, and everybody clicked. And I know every company will say that there's no BS in our locker room, and everybody's got a ton of camaraderie, but here it's true. We're all friends, and we all want what's best for the actual company, not necessarily what's best for ourselves. And we don't put precedence on any one person more than anyone else.
No, I definitely do notice that. I definitely do agree with that. But we'll get more into ACW in just a bit. Now, I think there's a lot of people that like to know who you are and some of the humble beginnings that you happen to have. So, first thing I always I'm going to say this because you actually were the one person that actually posed a question to me during one of my Q&A deals. And you actually asked the question, can I interview you for that? And my answer to that is going to be yes. So I thought it'd be kind of cool, every now and then, I'll ask a question. If you do have a question for me, I'll be more than happy to answer that. So we'll kind of do something that's kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that. Let's start with what draws you to Wisconsin independent wrestling? What made you find it, and what made you such a big supporter of it? Because I see you everywhere, which is awesome because you support as many companies as you can and as many people as you can. You're definitely not picky and choosy about who you champion and who you don't, which is awesome to think that, I think you want what's best for everybody in the ring, which is the best type of fan to have.
No, definitely. So what drew me to especially for, ACW Wisconsin, is the fact that it does feel like, as you mentioned, it does feel like it is a family. It does feel like you're more than welcomed into the show. And right off the bat, I can definitely state that when people come into the show, one of the first things they'll see is Commissioner Josh Weimer. He is the guy that's there, doing handshakes and hugs and stuff like that. I mean, anytime that he comes up to me, he's like, dude, thank you so much for coming. Just gives me this big old hug. That's one of the things I always appreciate. But also the connection that you guys have with the fans is just honestly irreplaceable, and it cannot be duplicated. I absolutely love what you guys do to, get the crowd to cheer, get the crowd to boo. You definitely do have some great deals where you can actually jaw jack with the crowd, or you can just interact with the crowd. One best example of that was the last show that was at Tanner's, was the show where it started off with Nathan Gust versus, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was one of the graduates
Craig.
Craig. So one of the things that happened during that show was that I was doing a solo chant while other people were just kind of clapping along, and Nathan Gus is just pointing directly at me because his gimmick. He does the deal where he's just biting and stuff like that. So I just started to taste like chicken chant right there. And what's actually funny is that since he works at Quick Trip, it'd be kind of funny to have a shirt where he just says, person tastes like chicken, and on the back it just says, but it doesn't taste like Quick Trip chicken.
not quite at the par. For anyone who hasn't seen an ACW show, I would say it's completely different than any wrestling show you're going to see, because just the intimacy of it is insane. When you walk in, you have the commissioner, and before he became a full-fledged member of the roster again, Swabble, who's the owner, it's not a secret, would greet people at the doors. And when you walk in, all the wrestlers are scattered around the ring, so you get to walk up to them and interact with them, and they're not stuck behind a table. You can get your pictures. You can. Everything is right in front of you, which is awesome, and it's easy to interact with us. And there isn't a guy in the locker room who won't talk to someone. And I think even if we're not really selling anything, we're gonna come hang out and talk to people. And ACW has such a core group of fans who have been with us since day one, or maybe not that early, but definitely for a long time, that like everybody comes out and they'll sit and talk to you for 10, 15 minutes just because you get to know us through this, and not just like the characters we portray. You get to know the people behind the character. You get to find out who the real Seth is. Where a lot of people, Seth Gambino is just like an extension of myself. He's just a little bit louder, a little bit more boisterous, a little more confident. But through doing this, I've made a lot of really good friends. And now people come up when they buy shirts, they're asking how my daughter is, or how I'm doing, or anything. The year hasn't been the greatest, but through ACW, I've kind of been able to have that family feeling that I might be missing right now. It was like our WrestleCon show was literally the week to the day after my mom died, and getting to share like that breakdown in front of 3,000 people and with like one of my best friends in Big Cass was unreal. But like I knew it was coming, and it just took a little longer to process than I thought it would. But when it hit, everybody was there to make sure I was okay, and it was nice to have it happen in front of 3,000 of my closest friends.
Yeah, no, it was really, really cool to see that. And I definitely want to ask that first question of what got you so interested in professional wrestling? What was kind of something that kind of stood out to you to make you think, I'm invested in this? And also, what kind of got you the, click to actually want to make this into, some people call it a career, some people call it a hobby. But I think, in your case, what made this click to become a passion of yours?
Well, from the time I was 3 or 4, I remember my dad and my godfather, we would watch it together, and I think it was WrestleMania 6 was the first show I really remember, so maybe I was about 6. WrestleMania is about as old as I am. So, and the first guy that stood out to me, everybody would say like Hogan or Warrior, I was drawn to Dusty Rhodes. And from that point on, as much as I could find, and it took a while for me to figure out what the NWA was and find some of his older stuff, and like the Crockett era, and like Florida Championship Wrestling. But man, when I saw like he's a big guy, and he's a very charismatic big guy, and he wasn't the greatest wrestler, but like he was over as hell because he was charismatic, and like the crowd just ate him up because he was essentially just one of them. And that's what drew me into it, and I started in a backyard with a lot of guys who still wrestle to this day, and we were offered a tryout from what was ACW, then ran by Jason Jerry in Green Bay. So we went and trained with Shane Hales at shows, and then it just kind of took off from there. Did as much of it as I could when I was younger. Definitely burned the candle at both ends, trying to have a full-time job and do this, and maybe lost some opportunities in my real life because wrestling was more important. Missed out on some family stuff, and now it's kind of come full circle, and like wrestling is still a passion, but it's not the only thing I care about, and I'm selective about when I do it. So ACW is going to be like one of the focal points just because it's in my hometown, and it's where my family and my friends can come see me. And like my daughter came to her first show this year, and that was the coolest feeling in the world, was having people say, hey, we didn't watch the match, but we just watched her reaction the entire time. And then like she still talks about it. I dropped her off before we did this interview, and she was throwing a fit because she couldn't come tonight.
Oh, really?
So I'm going to try to make sure she can come to a few more next year.
So she definitely wanted to see Daddy take some names, kick some ass. And
yeah, she loves it. She still refers to everybody as Uncle this, Uncle that. And she still talks about the first one she came to. She started collecting action figures, which is awesome because I did it as a kid. And now, like, we watch it at home together. That's become like a thing we share. Where I'm not sure how her mom feels about it, but it's definitely something her and Dad do together. So it's another shared interest she and I have.
Well, I mean, that's kind of one of those things where if it's a bonding experience, yes, there is a bit of a gray back area to certain parts of it, but at the same time, you're more looking at the positives of professional wrestling, which is always something that can be very difficult to do, especially if someone's watching like a Raw or a SmackDown, because they're seeing these cringeworthy, like, segments. But that's one of the mentalities that I don't expect when it comes to these shows.
Yeah.
Is getting the chance to, see that. I'm not going to expect, somebody to come out in like a giant, blow up suit, or like although a blow up T-Rex at an ACW show would be interesting to say the least. I don't know if Swat would approve that, but it'd be one of those things where it's just oh, it's funny, It's
there's been some things that have been kind of, is that what we're doing? But they're very few and far between. I think they've run a very family-friendly product that would translate onto TV, just because it's what works.
Right.
And like Oshkosh is a crowd that isn't necessarily big on high spots, isn't necessarily huge on the actual wrestling side of things. They want to be entertained. Some people appreciate moves, some people appreciate character, some people appreciate story and just dramatics. So we try to give a little bit of everything. Where we have guys who can wrestle, like insanely good. And then we have guys who are characters. We have guys who have backstories. We have guys who put all this time and effort into who they are, like Aesop Mitchell and Aaron Arsenal. So it's cool to see, like, I feel like if this was a Baskin Robbins, every 31 flavors is represented somewhere on the show.
Honestly, I think that's a really good way of putting it. I never would have thought of it that way, but now it just reminds me of that Baskin Robbins logo where it has the 31 in pink and the blue other letters. Oh gosh, that is an awesome way to look at that. So obviously, you mentioned you trained with Jamestown. What was kind of like the training like for you? Obviously, there's some people that have been that look like sticks and they do okay or they do horrible. But obviously, as a fluffier individual, as I like to call it, how much does that add more pressure to you to succeed, or does it, or is it kind of motivation for you?
I did everything everyone else did in training. I didn't do anything differently. When we had to do up and overs, where we had to do six packs, or like the flare flop off the top rope, did everything. I didn't want to be treated differently. Some things were harder, and some things were easier for me just because of my size. Until recently, I really didn't wrestle for my size, which I'm kind of getting better at now, where I like to bump, I like to sell for people, I like to make the other guy I'm in the ring with look good, but there's different ways to go about it, where I can still protect my size, and when I was younger, I didn't do that at all. I would take every crazy bump imagined. So having people tell me, like, hey, you're taking years off your life, and like there's no reason to do that.
Right.
Save for like the big shows. I've definitely toned my style down quite a bit.
Because I guess we could probably call it like the Mick Foley effect, where he did all these crazy bumps, he did all these crazy moves, and in reality, it kind of lessen his career a bit more. Some might even argue might have lessened his life a bit more, but that remains to be seen, though.
Seeing him walk around at WrestlingCon, he was in pain, like just thinking, hey, that could have been me. Like if he went down the road, he kept going down, and it was like just the unprotected stuff to the head, and just like looking back at like some of the stuff I used to do, I'm just like, why did I do that? Like there was no purpose of doing that. It didn't get me anywhere. It didn't make the match any better or any worse. So there's definitely different ways to go about it, and still be just as entertaining. You just have to kind of grow into who you are and learn what works and what doesn't work, and just like even the style I use against other people is completely different than what I used to do, where it used to be like I'm going to throw guys around and drop them on their head, and now I'm just like, hey, I'm going to strike. I worked on the elbow as a finish for forever, and finally got to a point where it's going to look good pretty much 10 out of 10 times, and I'll stick with that. Where how many different ways can I use that? How many different ways can I set this up? It's not an issue that other people use a forearm on the show, because I can still make it look impactful. I got my size hits you, he's going to knock you out.
Right.
So I try not to throw them during the match and save them for a finish, which gets hard at times because you can't really strike if like your go-to is a forearm. So finding other ways to kind of get around that, and just definitely figure out what works and what doesn't work, and trial and error, and finding littler shows, and I want to try this, I want to try that, and then if it works, it comes here. Excuse me, and if it doesn't, maybe back to the drawing board.
Yeah, it is kind of a deal where it is trial and error. You definitely want to try new things to keep people very interested, but at the same time, you don't want to change it like completely drastically to the point where people are just like, what exactly are you doing with this? Yeah. But no, I definitely do, respect that about you. Is that you definitely do try to keep, true to yourself, but you also do a lot of different, especially with your attires. I definitely do notice that there's always been a different change, and that actually leads into a very interesting question because I definitely do notice a bit of a pattern here. So the question is Big Hero 6 your favorite Disney movie of all time?
Definitely one of them. My daughter loves Baymax, so the Baymax attire was definitely a nod to her. But I thought it was cool. I thought it would translate over to a cool look, so I ran with it. My grandfather passed last year. We incorporated his last name, and it's my mom's last name too, into like my character, All Hartman. Their last name was Hartman. Okay. So that's where All Hartman came from. Wow. Where I've always been like the hoorah babyface character. I'll fight for the little guy. I'll stand up for the city. I'll stand up for the people. And I just needed something that was a cool tagline, and it kind of sounds like a Mega Man character. It kind of sounds like a comic book hero, and if you look at my arm, you can tell I'm a huge comic book fan. So, 90% of my attire comes from movies or something pop culture where it's a nod to something. Okay. And then, I feel like to have lasted this long, you definitely have to tweak things every so often. You can't get stagnant. So whether it's just little changes in my attire, little changes in my appearance, definitely evolving, ever evolving, not trying to stay the same. And I know the promoters aren't really fans just because it's hard to find current posed shots to use on flyers and whatnot, but that's who I am. That's what I do.
Fair enough. One thing I definitely do want to talk about is your run as a tag team with the Dream Team. Dream Police, I apologize. It is one of those teams that is definitely well-renowned, especially in ACW, and has definitely got the notoriety, especially in the DVD, Best of 5 series. Definitely check that out if you get a chance. I think you should definitely purchase it because it's awesome. One of the first few matches that was put on there was your guys' feud with Dysfunction, and it was actually here at this arena that you guys...
The first show here, yeah. First anniversary. Wow. The street fight. Dis and Chase were so fun to work with, and they were okay with beating the hell out of us, and we were okay with beating the hell out of them. And for forever, from the time I broke in until recently, I was a tag guy. And Gotti was so fun because we complemented each other's weaknesses so well. Where he's nose to the grindstone, just head down, action, boom, right at you. And I'm more of the, it's weird because I ended up being more of the technician. And kind of the way we look and the way we do things. Mm-hmm. He would, come in and say, hey, we should do this, this, and this. And his was always what we do in the ring. And mine was hey, let's, tweak our music or let's tweak our look. So that was my, contribution. And he would be the workhorse, and I would be the cheerleader, and come in and back cleanup. And it was a method that always worked. And then, whether it be work or whatever reason, he's not around as much. So I got a chance to kind of dip my feet and go on my own. So over the last year, I've definitely enjoyed it. It's kind of fun to find out who Seth Gambino is without a partner. So I feel like I don't have that safety net. So I feel like it's definitely a new experience, but I'm really digging it.
Yeah, I do remember that day that you did turn heel. It was actually at the Tanner show where the headline match was Sadis versus Mr. Anderson. I think that was also where I got a little bit of a rib from Anderson because why not? He's a bit of an a-hole. Yeah. Whatever. But yeah, I just remember seeing that and I'm thinking to myself, man, this is a guy who literally, I think you guys just recently won the titles at the first wrestling con. Yep. So you had that, then lost it to, it was Lynch and Hall and Rock Hall. Okay. Yep. And yeah, it was just seeing that just automatically kind of going there. And like you said, it kind of gives you that opportunity to go into the singles run. And obviously the ultimate payoff was last year at the anniversary show where you won the All-Star Trophy. So yeah, so I'm actually kind of curious. What was it like kind of to hear that news that they were actually going to put the trophy on you for that year? I mean, was it kind of one of those things where it was like, there's some people that have that mentality of like, it's about time you finally see, how great I am and blah, blah, blah. Or was it kind of one of those things where it's like, this is a pretty awesome honor, thank you.
It was a pretty awesome honor, and they didn't tell us until an hour before the show started.
Really?
So while we were putting the match together, we had 6 different finishes planned. Because they wouldn't say who was winning, and they kept saying they were mulling it over, and it sounded like that was, like, I was inked to win it pretty far in advance, just because it was really catching fire as a babyface, was really kind of starting to come into my own. And I think like the match with Lynch I had here, just where like it was finally someone who people didn't cheer Lynch for, like because Lynch is so good and people love him, but at the same time, if you put him in there with a good foil, like he's gonna get booed, and that's what he wants.
Right.
But there's some guys who just don't get that reaction. But like this city is my city. Like these are my people. So like there aren't many times where people get cheered more than I do. Tonight will be interesting, just because there's a bunch of fan favorites in one match. So I'm kind of intrigued to see who cheers for what. But it's fun. These multi-man matches were never really my specialty, but they've definitely become fun to put together.
No, I need to ask this because there's probably some people that would like to know. Is this kind of like a sudden death deal, or is it an elimination deal here?
One fall to a finish.
One fall to a finish? Oh, boy.
First guy who picks up a pin, or in this case, first person, because we do have a female in the midst tonight.
That is true.
Gets the Duke and gets the trophy. So I kind of didn't end with it great last year, so I definitely would like to become Seth 2 times. I saw Shayna Baszler use that as a hashtag, so I figured I could steal it. And just see if it works out. And then we'll see where it goes this time.
It would be the first time in history somebody's won it back to back, if I'm not mistaken.
The first time somebody's won it twice.
Yeah, man, jeez, that would be a great honor. That's not going to put any pressure on you tonight.
I don't feel pressure, man.
So one thing you didn't talk about was working with Big Cass or Cass XL. It was really cool to see you guys have that matchup against, I believe it was Delirium?
Delirium, yep.
Yep, Delirium at the Wrestling Con show. So kind of tell us, like, how was it working with Cass XL? Was he kind of what you expected him to be, or was it kind of just like a shock out of the door? Like,
I had heard nothing but horror stories about Cass, and what he turned out to be was completely different. He was very big on, what do you guys do? Cool, let's get all that in, and then let's just add to it. And he definitely wanted us to shine. And like he was in rough shape. He just gotten clean, and his knees were bugging him, and you could tell this was his first match since December, I think. But he brought it, and like the crowd ate everything up, which was a really fun experience. It was fun to get in there with Gotti again. Even though it was the last ride, and then to team with a guy fresh off WWE TV. So it was definitely a highlight for me.
It was really awesome to see that. The only thing I will criticize about that matchup is how they kind of. Do you remember how like in the background they had those like pictures up?
The graphics, yeah.
They had the graphic of just the two of you and then that silhouette. Then it would have been awesome. Then I think it would have been like 100 times better, because then people are just like, well, who's the team? Who's the team? But when you have Big Cass up there, it's just like, well, that kind of takes away from the mystery. I'm not trying to be that crazy person that nitpicks about those. It's just little fine details.
I'll let our graphics guy know.
Oh boy, I may have made an enemy here at ACW.
It's fine.
Oh man. So obviously, you won the trophy and you're defending it basically every single show. Was there an opponent out of this entire year that you've really loved working with?
Aesop was fun. I got to work Aesop twice. I got to work Tommy twice. One of the graduates, Steve, World Class was a really fun time, just because it was like his first real match.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of fun to be that guy, to be able to be like, all right, cool, we trust you in this, and go out there and see what he can do. And we purposely kind of kept some things open-ended just to see how he would handle change, or handle improv, and he did great. So the promo afterwards, where I put him over, definitely wasn't something I was told to do. That was from the heart. That was legit. I figured he might be one of the best ones that's come out of this training academy in a long time. So
it was really cool to see that, because every single time you were definitely valuing up the prestige of what the All-Star Trophy represented, which was this version of what is the Money in the Bank deal. And so many moments I was just thinking, like, okay, he's probably going to cash it in here. He might cash it in here. He might cash it in here. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, well, he might not, because of the fact that he already competed. But then again, competing 2 times in one night can be expected sometimes from certain wrestlers. But I will ask you this. Overall in your career with ACW, do you have a favorite matchup that you can pick out as one that you would love to just kind of relive again?
The tag match you mentioned with Dysfunction and Chase McCoy.
Really?
First anniversary and the first show at our home, the Masonic Center, was definitely probably my favorite match.
It is definitely one of those matches that stood out. And it definitely deserves to be on the DVD. It definitely showcases all 4 of your individual talents, as well as what kind of, that tag team wrestling still exists and can still headline major shows. I mean, so many people probably still think it's got to be a singles match, it's tradition, blah, blah, blah. They have to realize you change with times.
Yeah,
and obviously...
Sure. If you ask the Sandman, women can't be in a band.
Oh, jeez.
He's a little antiquated.
Just a little bit.
But it's nice because, I feel like ACW, you can put any show, any match as a main event with the proper build, and it'll still the show. We've had the tag titles main event. We've had the Water City title main event. We've had the world title, obviously, the heavyweight title as main event shows. We've had street fights. We've had hardcore. We've had Falls Count Anywhere. We've had TLC. We've had ladder matches.
We've had a rumble.
Yeah, we've had a rumble. It's different. Everything is different, which is awesome. Where it's never the same thing, and it's big on seeing who can handle the pressure of being in that spot. And I feel like the majority of the roster can. I feel like you could slide anyone into that position, and I think they'll shine. I think the Suits have definitely put together a collection of some of the best talent in not just Wisconsin, but the surrounding areas. And they definitely know how to highlight people's strengths and kind of falter away from people's weaknesses, and definitely get the most mileage out of someone's minutes when they're out there. Absolutely
awesome. So I've been asking you a lot of questions, so I think it's only fair to give the proverbial microphone over to you. Did you have any questions that you wanted to?
Yeah. What do you want to see tonight? What are you hoping for?
What am I hoping for tonight? Honestly, it's going to be interesting because I'm still going to be a fan, but I'm also going to be doing commentary for the show tonight. So it's going to be one of those things where I will want to, scream off the top of my lungs, or maybe do like a random chant. But I also have to realize I got to focus on, delivering kind of like the story of that. But as far as for tonight goes, I'm very interested in seeing how this next chapter with Colucci and Swoggle goes, because ever since that whole deal at Night of the Legends where Swoggle turns on Colucci, it's kind of like, okay, so we got this chapter going on. We got Josh there saying like, no, you guys are friends. This is all going to blow off. It's totally fine. And it's one of those moments where I'm just like, Josh, you're killing me, man. We want to see these guys just duke it out to get this to get over.
And sometimes, just to save a relationship, you have to fight.
Hey, that's very fair.
They're as close as brothers. I fought my brother all the time.
What was that in backyard wrestling too?
Yep. Sometimes not. But there's a lot of big stuff happening tonight. It's going to be a really fun show.
It absolutely is, and that's one of the things again that I do love, and one of the things I definitely do like supporting about ACW. Just this year, I decided, okay, I actually do want to help sponsor you guys and help be there to kind of show that, hey, this is not just another wrestling show. This is just something that it's fun to watch. It's fun to sometimes even participate in. I mean, you've probably seen a couple of the stuff that I've been doing with Salem Crane, which honestly, I don't know where this is going. I don't know if it's going to even evolve into anything, or if it's just going to be a deal where Crane and I are just literally for like the next 2 years, we're just going to have like stare-offs between the two of us.
It'll be interesting to see how that works when you're on commentary.
It is very interesting because I will say this without trying to have him breaking up too much the way of character, but one of the things that he was saying to me was that he was kind of astonished on how I might have the mind for the wrestling business, and that's kind of one of those things that I wanted to learn. I actually even said to Josh, if there's any way that I can learn more about this, I would love to do this. And that's kind of where the whole commentary deal kind of came up, and it's like, okay, let's give it a shot. But also another thing that's been helping out has been listening to the hard truths that Ben McCoy brings out like almost every day or every week or something like that. Because you definitely do get an idea of the backstage politics, or even some of the things where it's like, you think you should be doing a certain thing this way. Like recently he was talking about definitely like paying dues and how some people have been just, saying like, oh yeah, I'd be more than happy to help out and stuff like that, but they never really follow through with the
I love the idea of what he does, and I agree with so much of it. I just don't like the fact that he puts it out there for the general public. I feel like there's definitely people who don't need to know how the sausage is made. And once you expose how the inner workings of this work, you're not leaving yourself with fans, you're leaving yourself with people who are now inside the business who don't need to be. So I never have a problem talking business with people who are inside of it. It's just I have a hard time kind of breaking down that fourth wall to people who would be paying customers and would be supporting us even if they didn't know what was going on behind the curtain, which I feel like it's not something that will help him in the long run. I feel like it's something that's going to hurt him because he runs his own company, and if you're continually letting people in on the secrets of your own company and other wrestling companies, what reason do they feel like they have to keep going to shows? Admirable, and it's, a lot of what he says is true. It's just the fact that maybe who he's saying it to isn't the right people to be sharing it with.
Maybe it's kind of one of those situations where maybe it's kind of like, those behind the scene deals that they have with movies where they try to show that, and there's some people that can take away from it, like, it takes away the nostalgia for the movie or something like that. But I'm kind of one of those people that can watch that and still feel nostalgic for it. And I'll tell you this, that from experience, I definitely am one of those people that believes in the fact that, paying dues is important. And one thing that I definitely do notice a lot is that there's some people that can just, they just show up, they do their due, and then they just, end up leaving, or they go to like the after show party or stuff like that. I'm definitely one of those people that would love to help out more. I just don't want to, cross any bridges that I'm not supposed to, cross or stuff like that. So that's kind of something that's going through my head.
And it's everybody has their own opinion on it, and like I'm not saying what he's doing is right or wrong.
Right.
It's just my opinion. I used to be involved. I used to try to be involved in every little issue and drama that would happen. But now, like I felt, it's become so much more enjoyable. I come in, I do my job, and I either go hang out at the after bar or I go home.
Right.
I try to, look at this as a business and treat it as such. Yes, we're all friends, and yes, I like to hang out with these guys. But at the same time, like I try not to get roped up into every little bicker and every little quarrel.
Right.
Just because I feel it's detrimental to us.
It is kind of one of those things where it's like, I got my own drama to worry about. I
Yeah.
don't need any more added on here.
Yeah, I have enough going on in my life where I definitely don't need to pile on.
So I definitely do want to ask this, and hopefully this is not something that's poking too personal or anything like that. But one thing I definitely do notice with a lot of Facebook posts that you do put up there, it does seem like something that I can also relate to is the battle with depression when it comes to so many of these different deals. Yeah. I do want to ask you this: for those people that are battling with depression, what is something that you can give to them to help them get past this battle of depression? Because
I felt like it became easier to manage when I would let myself feel it. You don't always have to do it right then and there, but like something's never going to go away if you don't process it. And that means whatever it means to you, but like you have to allow yourself to feel your feelings.
Right.
Otherwise, they're not going to go. You can only shelve them for so long before like they blow up in some big explosive gesture that isn't something you necessarily want to do. So I feel like the moment you finally allow yourself to live what is happening in your life, that's the only way you're going to get closure. And like I've said, like before we started this interview, professionally this year was awesome. One of the best years I've had, financially and what I did in the ring and just all of that. But at the same point, like personally, it was it's horrible. Like I lost my biggest fan. I lost one of my best friends. So it's definitely something like I'll be carrying for a while, but like there's definitely a lot of people who help me carry the baggage. So ask for help. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I can't really speak to the female side of things just because, but like there's a stigma that guys shouldn't be depressed and guys shouldn't feel feelings, and it's a sign of weakness to get help or to try to better yourself, which I don't agree with at all. And I feel like if things are put in place where we made mental health as big as a priority as physical health, I think we'd be a different population. And that's been my takeaway. Is I try to promote as much positivity as I can, because sometimes you got to find the victories in the little things. The Not Today shirt was obviously a nod to the fact that part of the proceeds went to anti-suicide charities, just because of the fact that everybody, anybody who's gone through that, you need something to tell yourself that why you're still here. So it's a Game of Thrones ripoff, but at the same point, there's a big personal message behind it.
It is one of those things where it's okay to be human, and I guess some people think that it's the easy way out just to end it all. But I think that I've had that experience of almost any. But like you said, it's good to have that positive reinforcement, a good support system to help you get past that and help you realize that life is definitely worth living. And I keep mentioning my accident, but it's still one of those things that to this day I look back and I think, I've looked death in the eye, and it's one of the scariest and most, stressful things that you'll ever witness. But it is a wake-up call to remind you that life is definitely worth living, and life has more moments for you that you can enjoy and that you can absolutely just just nourish off of. And that's one of the things that going back to your first question, why I like ACW, because of the fact that it does give me that reason to remember that there are so many great things.
There's so many good things, and sometimes they're harder to find, but pro wrestling to me has always been there. And it's cliche to say that, but at the same point, I haven't had some of the best experiences in life, and then this is something where it was an escape from some of the bad, and it was a chance to be a character or be someone else. And Seth Gambino doesn't have the same problems that Seth does. So it's definitely cool to look at things like that, and it's cool to have people that aren't just fans but are actual friends, and they come up, and it's not just, hey, wrestling question. It's, how's life, and how's your daughter, and how are you doing with your mom, and everything. It's cool to have that. Sometimes it's not the best to be asked at shows, as I'm walking in the ring.
Right.
But at the same point, I try to be as forward as I can with everything and as transparent, just because if I saw people doing it on social media and that prompted me to want to get help and want to fight this. So if there's one person who finds hope in the things I talk about, awesome. That's what I want. So definitely, it's a cool chain to be a part of.
No, definitely do agree with that. And it's really good that you are one of those people that definitely do that deal where you realize, I'm human. I have a right to have feelings. And if that's too much for you, then I'm sorry, but I'm not going to change.
Right.
Which I definitely do like, and I definitely do support that. So one of the other things that comes with wrestling is, of course, the toll that it does take on your body. And you did mention, when you earlier on in your career, you definitely try to do more the bumps or stuff like that. Not quite like maybe a Dolph Ziggler level or Heath Slater level, but
not as bad.
So I do have to ask this: how many injuries have you had in your career? What by far has probably been your worst injury?
Concussions have been the bad one. I got a concussion at Baba Louie's. I'm going to say 11 years ago.
Well, how did the concussion come about, if you don't mind me asking?
I took a Van Terminator from Jared Jacks, and there was a metal bar inside the chair, and I didn't hear him say to kind of cover up.
Oh, no.
So it hit me square in the temple as he came across the ring, and I just remember, I don't remember anything. What was filled in for me was the ref asking if I'm okay, asking where I am. We're in De Pere, and I kept saying we were in Indiana. Just remembering him saying, give him some time, and just having to be coached through the rest of the match, and just basically going on autopilot. by people telling me what to do, and ending, and like this is something we definitely should have nixed. It was like our first breakup as the Dream Police, and Gotti was turning on me that night, and he called for a chair shot.
Oh no!
And I didn't put my hands up. I just took it, and the crowd went bananas. And Swaddle was in the back, kind of telling the ref, like, "Oh, the crowd's eating it up. Give him another." And the ref trying to relay the message, like, "Seth's fucked. Like, don't let him take another." And I just remember pulling myself back up, and I'm like, "Let's do it." And basically not even being able to get out of the ring, basically having to be helped out of the ring. It was 20 below in the middle of January. Getting thrown in the back of somebody's car, not having my coat, not having my clothes, going to the hospital, just a singlet and boots, and basically all I wanted to do, because I'm covered in blood, is take a shower. And they're trying to run every test imaginable, and then when Gotti came with my stuff, I wanted to go see if I was okay. I guess I was trying to fight the doctor, because I was that upset and that charged up. But yeah, I haven't had too much bad luck. That was the worst one, and then there was one that kind of stemmed from a wrestling show where I got a little cut on my leg that turned into cellulitis, which then spread to my kidneys and almost killed me. So I have to be careful about that kind of stuff. But other than that, nothing major.
Nothing major. I don't know. When you get a concussion and you try to fight a doctor, that seems like a little major to me. But I'm also just picturing that in my head, just, a young Seth Gambino, just literally like, I just want to take a shower, and doctor's just like, no, you have to get back down.
Walking around in nothing but a gown, being like, I want my clothes. It's freezing, I want to take a shower. And they're like, no, you can't stand. We want to clean you up. We got to stitch you up. And I'm just like, they're like, where did these cuts come from? When I told them how it happened, they're just like, it looked like I kicked their dog. They definitely didn't want to hear like how the blood in wrestling is produced. So, yeah. That was a fun experience.
Oh, man. So, I will ask this because I definitely do want to, not keep you from getting prepared for your big match tonight, because honestly, it is one of the matches I'm really looking forward to tonight. So, I will ask this final question, and if you did have like one big final question you wanted to ask me, I'll give that to you. When you look back on your career, and all is said and done, you're riding off into the sunset, what would you want people to take out the most out of your career as Seth Gambino?
I'm one of them. Like I'm still just a fan. I'm still just a dude who loves wrestling, and I'm no different, no better than anyone who buys a ticket. I just got an opportunity to do it for them, but it doesn't put me on a different playing field. And my final question from you is what do you expect for 2020, and where can we see you next?
For 2020, as far as like ACW goes, or as far as
just in general.
I expect that in 2020 it is going to be a different year, and that wrestling is only going to get better. And I definitely do see a couple hurdles that ACW will probably have to cross, but at the same time, I think you guys have been through worse than this, and I think you guys are definitely going to do absolutely great. As far as where they're going to see me next, we'll be at Blizzard Brawl tomorrow night, which is going to be absolutely an awesome deal. Getting a chance to see a big GLCW show, which I want to say this because this was kind of funny, was that I think I remember correctly, this was about a couple months ago. It was either at the first Merrill show or the second Merrill show that GLCW came up to. I just remember talking to Dave Hero about this show, and I remember them talking like, okay, well, this show is happening this day, this show's happening this day, and it's like, well, that might happen to go on this show on this day here. And it's kind of like one of those like mini rivalry kind of conversations where it's like, well, they're doing it this day, this is their big show, we're doing it this day, it's our big show. So I'm definitely at least grateful for the fact that I get to not only come to this show, but also GLCW.
You'll have a fun, enjoyable weekend.
It's going to be absolutely great. And coming off of the week that I've had with dealing with stressful illness and stuff like that, it's going to be one of those things where it's just going to be great to just watch wrestling, enjoy it with friends, and just have an absolutely great time. So Seth, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to sit down, talk about this, and looking forward to seeing what you produce in the future.
Anytime, bud. Enjoy the show.
Definitely. So, guys, definitely thank you so much for listening in. If you want to check me out on Twitter at RealLifeInGame, do that. If you want to check us out on different podcasting formats, definitely do that. Talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye.